Hello friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. This one's opening the video. A guy who's spent 6 years cutting carpet finally gets his last day revenge on a scummy landlord. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. He snapped his fingers and demanded carpet. I gave him a weekend project from hell. I, 24-year-old male, worked in the flooring department for 6 years at a large Midwest hardware store where you save big money. If you know, you know. Part of my job was to cut carpet for customers. It'd come in 12 foot wide by however long they wanted, 12 by 3, 12 by 8, etc. This is important. After 6 years of working for this company in the flooring department, I'd seen well over a dozen managers come through the department and a fair share of part-time workers. In April of this year, I finally landed a position at a new company that allowed me to use my graphic design degree, so I put in my 2 weeks. I'd finally reached the last day of my job and was counting down the minutes when a man walks past me and snaps his fingers at me and says, "Carpet, now," and walks over to the carpet machine. Now this guy, let's call him Jared, is a known a-hole to myself and coworkers and a landlord for many of the apartments in the area. I was secretly praying he would come in so I could finally have my customer service revenge moment, and my prayers were answered because he wanted new carpet for his entire apartment complex. Now, any other day I would have hated helping with this because him being the scumlord that he is, chooses the cheapest carpet we sell and then proceeds to buy 10 to 20 cuts of that carpet. But today was different because I had a dream and I was going to do everything I can to make my dream come true. So Jared waits impatiently for me to bring the cheap carpet around, all while talking down to me about how much money he makes as a scumlord and how he's evicted a few families because he didn't like their kids. All just fuel for my revenge. Finally, he finds a huge roll of cheap carpet and he wants a little over a dozen cuts of carpet, all of them ranging between 12 by 9 to 12 by 13. I tell him to go wait by the registers and I'll have it up there as soon as I can. And I truly did cut it as fast as I could, but I rolled them loosely so they were all roughly the same diameter. I then proceeded to roll the cart full of carpet up to the front for him and even loaded it into his trailer. No tip, of course. But what was going to be his weekend project with his buddies is actually going to take a few weeks because I didn't label any of the rolls of carpet, so he has no way of telling how long each roll of carpet is. He has a trailer full of 12-foot rolls of carpet that he now has to unroll in order to know what room it needs to go to. And if you've never wrangled carpet before, it's not easy to bring a loosely rolled piece of carpet up a flight of stairs, let alone a dozen of them. It would have been better to cut the carpets like 4 to 5 inches too long. That way you aren't really shorting him per se. He's either going to have to cut each roll down to the correct size, or he's going to have to come back and say the idiot who used to work there cut them too long, and the workers will just need to cut the extra off. That'll be an additional day he has to waste bringing the rug back if he doesn't want to do it himself. And our second story. I was alone in the store. A customer told me, "You'll load them for me now." He was mistaken. I need to give you some background information so that this story makes sense. I work in a cash and carry that sells tiles and wood flooring. We're usually quite happy to load orders, but we're under no obligation to load them. We always have at least 2 staff on the floor as one employee needs to remain near the till at all times. The others can load orders, offload deliveries, etc. On this particular day, my coworker called in sick and I wasn't able to get anyone to cover. This meant that I'd have to work through the entire day without so much as a toilet break, as we're not allowed to close the store for lunch or leave the till unattended. As you can imagine, I wasn't too happy. As I was alone, I was also unable to load orders for customers, as that would require leaving the store/till unattended. Most customers understood this. I gave anyone who was expected to collect a call and informed to put up a sign explaining the situation and apologizing for the inconvenience. Most of the day went by without a hitch. That is, until I received a phone call from a lady looking to collect 2 large pallets of tiles that day. "Lady Azelle, I am me." "Me, unfortunately, ma'am, as I'm short-staffed today, I will be unable to load the order for you, and it's exceptionally large, so you might want to collect it in the morning when there will be a member of staff available to load the order for you." "L, no, I want them today. Can I not bring them if I load them myself?" "Me, Yes, you can take them if you load them yourself, but there are about 70 boxes of tiles weighing 40 kilograms each. It's an enormous load. L, that's fine. I'll bring my kids and they can load it for me. Me, no problem. Ma'am, the pallets are sitting at our warehouse door. Just let me know when you're here and I'll point you toward them. Have a nice day. During this conversation, an old man had approached the counter and had heard everything I said to the woman on the phone. He'll be OM. OM. How are you, lad? I'll take 20 boxes of this tile. Me. Sure thing. Just to let you know, we're unable to load any orders today, so you'll be able to collect them from 9 a.m. tomorrow. OM. I'll take them now. Me. I'm sorry, sir, but I'm the only member of staff here today, and I'm unable to leave the till. I really can't load the order for you today. OM. You'll load them for me now. I'm taking them today. The old fellow was being extremely condescending at this point, and I was nearing the end of my patience. There was also a line forming behind him. Me. Sir, there's no way for me to load your order at this time. Please understand that I cannot leave the store unattended. I'd be happy to load them on a trolley for you, but you'd have to load them into your car alone. OM. Sure, you can do that. I can't be lifting them on my own. This ridiculous argument went on for about half an hour until the old man finally agreed to load the tiles into his own car once I'd prepared them on a trolley for him. I didn't like leaving him to do it alone, but he was adamant about taking them there and then. I finally finished up with him and moved on to the next customer. While I was discussing an order with them, I heard someone shouting from the back of our store near the warehouse. I excused myself to check what the commotion was. I was greeted by 3 young men in their 20s who demanded someone assist them with the tiles at our back door. The lady from the telephone had arrived, and her sons were extremely displeased with the size of the tiles and the idea of loading it by themselves. What occurred next was another half-hour argument, which resulted in me being shouted at by 3 young men who refused to lift a single box of tiles into their mother's Jeep. I eventually had to insist that they return after hours so that I could load the order then. Anything at this point to get rid of them and get back to the line of customers waiting for help at the counter. Thankfully, they managed to procure a van from someone they knew, and I loaded both pallets in with our forklift. Still stands as one of the worst days I've had working in retail. Repeat after me. No. Try it again. No. Now in German. Nein. Now in high school cheerleader. N-O. No. Seriously, people need to get the holy hell over themselves when they hear that word. And our next story. From just a renter to HOA president. From 2015 through early 2018, my wife, then girlfriend, and I were professional nomads. We moved from apartment to apartment every few months, new landlords, new neighbors, new plumbing problems. It got old fast. Then in May 2018, luck finally smiled on us. My best friend Dan's parents had a tenant moving out of their condo after nearly a decade. Since I'd known Dan forever, and I also did his parents' taxes every year, I got first dibs. This condo wasn't just another place to live. I'd spent most of my teenage years hanging out there with Dan. Sleepovers, movie marathons, even our first teenage attempts at band practice. Moving in felt like returning to my roots. Only this time, I was bringing my wife and building new memories in the same place that had shaped my youth. The building was small, only 8 units. Each had 2 assigned parking spots, and all but ours were owner-occupied. It was the same group of people I remembered from my middle school and high school days. Most were nice enough, friendly waves, small talk in the hall, the usual condo politeness, but there was one neighbor everyone warned me about. Let's call her Greta. Greta was a lot. Every building has that one person who acts like they're the deputy mayor of the complex, and that was her. She lived alone, which meant she always had an empty second parking space, something that apparently was her most prized possession. A few months after moving in, one October evening, my doorbell rang like it was an emergency. I opened it to find Greta standing there, frazzled and scowling. "There's a strange car in my second parking spot," she said, breathless like she'd just caught a criminal. "Do you know whose it is?" I looked out. Nope, no idea. Wasn't mine or anyone's I recognized. I told her as much, and she just huffed, muttered something, and stomped off. Weird, but harmless enough. Then came the following week. I was out of town for work, and my wife dropped me off at the airport early in the morning. When she came home, she found her assigned parking spot occupied by a bright lime green Jeep with oversized tires. A monstrosity of a vehicle. Now my wife noticed that Greta's second parking space was, surprise, surprise, empty. She considered using it for just a few hours until she could figure out whose Jeep it was, but remembering Greta's meltdown over that random car, she thought better of it. Instead, she parked directly behind the Jeep in a T-shape, effectively blocking it in. She even left a polite note on the windshield. "Hi, you're parked in my spot. I parked behind you. Please come to Unit A and I'll move my car so you can get out." Reasonable, right? An hour passed, then came the furious ringing of the doorbell. My wife opened the door, and there was Greta, hair disheveled, face red, yelling before she even finished stepping inside the doorway. "You are so immature," she shrieked. "That's my friend's car. She was only going to be here 5 minutes. You couldn't wait?" My wife tried to explain calmly that she didn't know whose car it was, but Greta wasn't listening. She was too busy delivering her closing line, spat out like venom, "You'd do best to remember that you just rent here." Then she stormed off. A few minutes later, instead of knocking and asking my wife to move her car, Greta's friend decided to drive over the shared front lawn to get out. She tore up the grass, crushed the flowers, and left muddy tracks everywhere, all while Greta's precious second parking spot sat empty the entire time. That moment, that "you just rent here," stuck with us. Fast forward. In 2019, we got engaged. In 2021, we got married. And in October 2021, almost 3 years after the parking incident, we officially bought the condo from Dan's parents. Then in 2022, the longtime HOA president stepped down. The vote for a replacement took 5 minutes. And to Greta's horror, I was elected president. When I accepted, I couldn't resist. "Well," I said, grinning, "so much for just renting here." The room erupted in laughter. Everyone except Greta. I don't know if she was more stunned that I'd become president or that the renter she once scolded now technically outranked her in the building hierarchy. I didn't do all this to get revenge, of course. Life just worked out that way. But it's hard not to enjoy the symmetry. It's pretty sweet that anytime we cross paths or my wife and I see her, we get a smirk now and give her the fake, "Hi, how are you?" She never answers or says hi back, but we don't care. Because, hey, we just rent here. Greta sounds like the unofficial spokesperson for people who think owning a parking spot gives them diplomatic immunity. I love that she weaponized the words, "you just rent here," like it was supposed to sting. And then years later, she's forced to sit through meetings where you're literally running the show. Every "hi, how are you" give her now must feel like the world's politest middle finger. And our last story. Neighbor demands I tear down 20-year coop. So I bought a house in 2018. I had to in a hurry so I could get my mother in my old home before her chemo got intense. My family had outgrown the one we were in, and we found one that needed some work but had 5.25 acres and a chicken coop. Neighbor, Dan, obsessively manicures his property, and it's much nicer as a result, but the price and features worked for us on our side. We fix up and paint the chicken coop, only interrupted once by Dan asking us to tear it down or move it. Sure, the coop was well on our side of the property line, I thought. I politely declined and described how the only thing I'd be doing is building an enclosed run toward my house to protect the birds from predators after fixing some things inside the house that have been neglected. The previous owner was a serious alcoholic, and there's a lot of work to do. Dan walks away angry but defeated. Couple years pass, and the run is built exactly as described, and our informal survey shows the property line about 20 feet back, and I built gardens roughly the same distance from the property line. Dan has a survey done that suspiciously puts the back corner of the coop and about 1/3 of the run over the property line, but we agree that it could stay so long as I don't encroach any further and I eventually move it, which was my actual plan. He said to take all the time I need, declining my offers to buy the dirt or trade easements and reimburse him for the cost of the survey. Another year goes by and Dan has changed his tune. He interrupts a target practice session with my 2 foster kids to demand that I demolish the coop and run soon, to which I said I suppose I could push that project up to next fall, 2024. He isn't happy but seems pacified. I wasn't thrilled either, but I'm a reasonable guy and would prefer to have a good relationship with a neighbor I don't like much. Enter May 2024, 6 months before I agreed to do anything, and this guy shows up in my backyard wanting to talk about the GD coop again. "You know, Dan, you said I could have all the time I needed, and then demanded I tear it down, going back on your..." Cue the most childish temper tantrum I think I've ever seen. He was literally stomping on the ground with elbows out, screaming about how suing me and about how he'll own my whole house by the time he's done with me. F you, Dan. I decided the best place for that coop is exactly where it is. It's been there about 20 years, and adverse possession only requires 10. I can take that 12 square feet of dirt from you, and you'll even have to pay my legal fees. Only the run needs to move since it's only been there 5 years. That's exactly what I did. The new run connects to the gardens, and the roof funnels the rooster's crows right to his house. Setback requirements say the structures must be 5 feet from property lines. The back corner of the run is now exactly 5 feet 2 inches away from the supposed property line, and he gets to hear and smell my chickens every single time he's outside. He will not have peace until he dies or moves. I'm well within my rights, and while I do struggle with medical and PTSD issues from my service, I learned very well from the Navy how to be technically correct in a way that works only for me. Your statement, he will not have peace until he dies or moves, is not a threat. It's a simple statement of fact based on the new reality you've constructed. You've proven that the most formidable opponent isn't always the loudest one, but the one who knows how to use the rule book as a shield and sword. Well played. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.